and what today's generation can learn from this World Environment Day. We are joined in studio by Ms. Ingrid Chite, Acting Director at the Department of Environmental Protection, as well as Mr. Mmirwa, Business Development Executive from Carrera Holdings. Good evening and welcome to Botswana Tonight, Ms. Chite.
Good evening.
Good evening to you, sir, Mr. Ramora.
Good evening, ma.
We're here talking about World Environment Day. We understand that it's a day that has been commemorated since 1972. I think I could remember when we were young, the ozone layer, something happening to the ozone layer. We moved to global warming. Now we talk climate change. There's just been so many things that have been happening around the environment that just seems to be so far-fetched. Just briefly take us through, I'll start with you, Mechite, take us just through the historical context and why it is important for nations to commemorate this day.
Yes. Good evening, Babokhedi. Good evening. You know, this world, we are a global village. Botswana may be one country in Africa, one country in the world. But at the end of the day, what we have experienced is that there have been a slow but surely degradation of the environment throughout many years. Like you mentioned, I think our leaders far-fetched back, as in the 1970s, realized that if we don't address some of the challenges as a global village, we will not be able to make it. Because if you take pollution, for example, it doesn't know boundaries. You know, if you take the movement of animals, for example, these animals, they don't know boundaries. So we need to conserve the environment that we are living in as a global village. So as the years progressed, we realized that there's a lot of challenges in terms of pollution. There's a lot of challenges in terms of loss of biodiversity. There is also a lot of challenges in terms of, you know, in the world in general, whether it's animals, whether it's plants, they are diminishing in our world. And these challenges need us as a nation, whether you are government, whether you are private sector, whether you are the public, to be able, first of all, to be aware of your environment and also to know what the challenges are and also how do we address these challenges?
Okay.
Yes.
You just given us a proper context, and I like that you also mentioned that it is everybody's responsibility, including the private sector. We're having this conversation with you. You don't come alone. You came with Mr. Ramora. He comes from Carrera Holdings and IT a business. What's the relation? What is your interest, Mr. Ramora, in commemoration of this particular day?
Okay. Firstly, let me tell you that the ministry has approached the companies along Lituli Road. Some other people, they call it Old Lobatse Road. So all companies from water utilities to Caltex. So they've come up together to commemorate this day. So here, I am here representing those companies because we are all together, we are working all together on this day. So firstly, I would like to tell the people what we do at Carrera Holdings. Where we do IT technical support, network cabling, home and boardroom automation system, audio and video conferencing, cable management, CCTV solution, network and information security systems, and then we do IT hardware and software sales. Okay. So what we have done as Carrera Holdings, we have come up with a solution in-house you know, to try and preserve environment. We have a system called electronic document management system. So this system, it helps a lot of entities or companies to preserve environment. So they're not using any paper around their offices. We know paper is made from tree. So for the companies to reduce cutting of trees, they've got to use that system. So we've implemented this system in about 2 companies, corporates in Botswana, naming Bank of Botswana and Mmirwa.
Okay. I think just based on what you're saying, it's a natural relationship when we talk about, I mean, this year we're focusing on land restoration and desertification in particular. I think that's just, it's a natural relationship there. Let's just talk about our future, our land, hashtag we are generation restoration, and what that essentially means and what that interpretation has been for us as a country and in your collaboration.
Yes, I think there have been studies that have been done to show that we have lost a lot of trees. There has been soil erosion. There has been basically land degradation, and also we are experiencing a lot of drought. We are experiencing climate change issues as well, and we need to be drought resilient. We need to restore our land and so forth. So I think as a ministry, what we are trying to do is how can we mitigate all this? And one of the things that for this year, especially, that the theme for the commemoration for this World Environment Day is Journey in a Greener Future. This is focusing on accelerating land restoration, drought resilience, and also desertification priorities. And one of the things that in this country that we promote is tree planting. This morning, we went to Terisanyo Primary School, which is in Naledi. I know this morning I was told that it's not old Naledi, but it is Naledi, that area. So we were at the Terisanyo, and it was amazing, where we had 900 school kids. We also had our partners, which is the private sector, like he's saying, stakeholders from the Lituli Street. We had Standard Chartered Bank, we had PetroHyper, we had BBS, we had also companies like Carrera Holdings as well, to plant trees. Councillors, you know, and also staff from the Department of Environmental Protection. This was just to, because we believe children are our future. They are the future generation. So we really need to start there to teach them what it is, the implications of degrading our environment, and what we can do, what initiatives we can come up with to restore the degraded lands.
Okay. Now, I'm going to come back to you, Mr. Raboro. You talk about what it is that we do, and in particular, you reference the EDMS that you have and you've implemented at 2 of your clients in this country thus far. One, I'm just curious to find out, is it because at the core of what you do, you've got sustainability, you've got the environment as a key driver, or was that just a business decision because it just made sense? I'm curious to find out.
It's not a business decision. When the company started this initiative, they looked at the environment first. They did their research, and then we employed the students from the schools to come and implement this system. So right now the system is running, and most of it we are selling it in Zambia. It's doing very well in Zambia. By the way, Carrera Holdings has got branches, 3 branches in Botswana, being Francistown, Maun, and the head office here in Gaborone. And then we have another branch in Zambia, which is doing very well with this system. Okay. So in Botswana, it's it's just two companies which are using it right now.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that today with your stakeholders, you had a tree planting session, and you are really trying to inculcate some spirit around the young people. But I'm curious to find out from a policy perspective, from a legal framework perspective, what is it that we have in place? We know we've got, you know, the COP26, we've got SDG 6 that talks to clean water and sanitation, SDG 7, affordable clean energy, and of course SDG 13, clean climate change. But from a government perspective and a policy perspective, what exactly are we doing beyond just this one day to really ensure that as we talk about land restoration, as we talk about desertification and drought resilience, we're bringing and pooling communities, because at the core, this is speaking to local communities who are kind of wena o gae ba re rwalla dikgomo re dira tsotlhe tse leng gore what are we doing at a policy perspective?
Yes, our business as government is creating that conducive environment for everybody to operate in. So it's our responsibility to develop policies, legislation, strategies, programs and projects together with the stakeholders, of course in consultation with the stakeholders. So we have the environmental policies, we do. We have the climate change policy, we have the Waste Management Act, we have the Environmental Assessment Acts, Tourism Acts as well, and other strategies as well that we are implementing. And it's very, very critical, but at the end of the day, we have to work with stakeholders. Yes, because government cannot do it alone. So some of the initiatives that we come up with is really, sometimes as government, of course, sometimes we have to lead the pilot projects. But we would want, at the end of the day, for everybody to come on board. I was mentioning the tree planting. We are not done yet, because on the 15th of this month, on a Saturday, we will be doing the cleanup campaign, because we lead by example. Yes, our Honorable Minister will be leading, the Minister of Environment and Tourism will be leading up the cleaning campaign in the street, Salituli, which is all Lobatsa Road. And all the stakeholders in that street and also outside, they will come just to lead by example, because we are always talking about our country not being the best in terms of being clean, but let's all lead by example. But as government, we cannot do it alone.
Okay.
We will not be doing the cleaning only. We will be sensitizing a lot of people who will be there. For example, you know, we have komising, I'll say it in Setswana, you know, Gomsing. You know, Bomasape, they cook there, and then we don't know where they're taking the oil. So we're looking at sensitizing them, educating them on how to, you know, reuse the soil, I mean the oil, to preserve the environment. So that's what's going to happen.
And also, just to let the public know that this is not only done in Gaborone. In Pique, they were commemorating today. Yes, doing the tree planting. In Mau, they are doing what's called rehabilitation of an open area that was contaminated with oil spillages. Because at the end of the day, we have a duty to safeguard this environment and clean it up. In Serowe, they teamed up with Demswana, and Demswana donated some drums for waste so that we can put our waste in. We also have Kasani, which went around the primary schools, just educating the children about the environment as well. In Sabong, with the district council, they are going to be collaborating in cleanup campaigns as well.
Okay, I think as we come towards the end of our conversation now, I just want to talk up to the fact that we are on a digital transformation journey in this country. He talks about the uptake, and it's just I think it now sounds like an advert to some point, but I want to talk about the use of paper and how you say the uptake. Yes, we've got two companies, but it appears you're doing very well elsewhere.
Yes.
we talk about stakeholders and the environment of stakeholders, and this is in the private sector and in the public sector, and just how we print paper. How are we addressing some of these small, basic things with organizations such that we understand that the more you use paper, this is what it means to the environment? So don't just print unnecessarily, and there are alternatives, and you can actually piggy bank on technology to speak to some of these issues. What are we doing there?
I think as a country, we have always promoted, separating waste, tins separately, even if we are not 100%, but at least it's something that in some companies and also in some government offices, they are doing that. At the same time, we are also promoting what we call the circular economy, where what we call as waste is brought back into the economy, but turning it into something very useful, recycling, reuse, and so forth. So, I mean, today, as we come here, we didn't bring paper. We are using our IT gadgets. So we are going paperless, and we are serious about it. But at the end of the day, the public needs to know that that paper is coming from a tree. But as we grow, as the population grows of the world, and if everyone is going to need a paper, how many trees are we going to cut down? So that's the education that we should continue to give to our public.
But we rely on trees. That's our source of energy. So what alternatives are there?
I would like to at least go back to what she has been explaining. What I can tell at least the ministries, the government, is we have a solution.
Okay.
They must come to Carrera. We have a solution that they must stop using papers.
Okay.
We have a solution for them, and then we are ready to come and, introduce this program to them.
Unfortunately, we have run it clean out of time, but I do think we get the sense that there's a role for everybody to play, individuals, the private sector, and of course government. We can all come together, do the tree planting, ensure that we go electronic or digital, and whatever else it is that we ought to do to safeguard our environment, because if it happens elsewhere, it still impacts us. If it happens here, it impacts the rest of the globe. Thank you so much. That was our conversation with acting director at the Department of Environmental Protection, Ms. Ingrid Chite, and she was speaking to us, of course, with Re Tumelo Ramorwa, who was representing Carrera Holdings, one of the stakeholders that they have partnered in on this particular World Environment Day. And on the 15th, if I'm not mistaken, they would continue with this exercise along Lituli Road, picking up litter, sensitizing and raising awareness around environment.
Botswana's present and future to industrialization is premised on the conviction that industrial development should lead to value addition in the form of mineral beneficiation and manufacturing, and most importantly, sustainable and inclusive growth.
Affirmative action.
Ditlamelo, dithuso, tlhokomelo, e nna gaufi.